You gotta mute yourself or somebody can mute me.
I'll mute her. I got it. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to pass it off to Megan really quickly, but welcome to the team call. Megan's presenting, and this is we're going into the first week of February. So the content for this month, we're going to switch over into just some new posts. I know there's kind of a theme every week, it's going to change in February. Spirit Week, I will do the drawing probably later today. And I'm telling myself that out loud because otherwise I will forget. And then it will take 3 months for me to mail the prizes out. So I will try to do that tonight and get that out to everybody, but I'm going to kick it over to Megan.
Yeah, it's raining. Okay, I'm moving inside really quick or I'm going to move away from the window because it just started raining and the rain was hitting my back. Okay, so welcome to our Sunday team call. Thank you for being here. I know that we all have super busy Sundays, and I feel like what makes us really successful as a team is that we take the time to really dive into this mindset piece every week and not just create a focus of just our fitness and just our health. It's an entire wellness journey. And so we're going to be diving into a topic that's really close to my heart for a multitude of reasons. So I'm going to share my screen with everybody. And I've never shared my screen, so bear with me for a second. I think it's working. Okay. Now, how do I get to my... Okay. So, can everybody still see on here? Oh.
Yes, queen.
Okay, we can still see it. Okay. I can't see myself or anybody else, so I really have no idea anything that's happening. I don't know how to get back into that. So like I said, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to kind of dive into this. We're going to be going over today, faking it to fit in, and trying to figure out and navigate how to break free of all of the judgment and the fears that we have behind the judgment that come with showing up as our true, authentic selves. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something that you wake up one morning and you're like, I'm going to be authentically me and show up today. It takes a lot of strength and building the most important, I feel muscle in your body, which is your mind, and really building and navigating who you truly are and what that looks like to show up as yourself. So we're going to take it back to the beginning. I don't know how to get that to show. There we go. All the way to the beginning and kind of going over where we're all starting from. And I feel we're born into a society that has a huge emphasis on fitting in. And if you don't fit in, you're considered an outcast. And so society has set upon us this normal range of things that are acceptable and things that are not. And when we don't show up within that tiny little range of things, then we're considered an outcast. And so a lot of us from a young age are coming into the world and thinking I have to change myself in order to fit into this bubble. First of all, garbage, and we'll get in more into that. But a lot of us change things, like I said, from a young age in order to fit in and not be judged and not have to worry about showing up and being real, because some people aren't going to be accepting of that. And some people won't hold value in how you're showing up truly, as your authentic self. We've been raised to believe that being different and going against the grain is taboo, and that doing that is not something that's going to get you places, and you're not going to be accepted if you're showing up differently than somebody else is. And again, that's just it's hard to get out of that mindset because it's so ingrained into society now. And so I feel being a part of this community and being a part of people and surrounding yourself with people that accept you for who you are. Can you go, please? Thank you. Is something that we're really working on training everybody to do and helping them build that piece in their life. Little bit of backstory. And I was talking to Erica about this earlier, and I feel diving into this has brought up a lot of emotions for me. I am really bad at reflecting, and I am really bad at kind of diving into past traumas and past events that kind of have shaped me into the person that I am today, when really that's what I should be not showcasing, but that's what I should be showing. We all go through struggle, and we all go through things, and we all go through times in life where we are not showing up the way we want to, but that's what kind of we're working towards. And so for me, my first real memory of trying to fake it to fit in was in elementary school. And in elementary school, I was the chunkier kid. Imagine my hair like 3 or 4 inches shorter, like literally just like this ball of curl frizz in Hawaii. And I was the chunky kid. And so I didn't even have the looks of what it was. Please go. No, I'm not doing that right now. I did not have the looks to fit in with all of my classmates. I looked different than everybody. And that was like thing number one that put me apart. And so I was always trying to like dress in the cute clothes and change my attitude and things like that. And then one day I discovered that everybody likes the fat, funny kid. And so I started changing my personality to try and like get people to like me. And one of the things that I remember doing is we used to sit at the lunch table and literally I would have people like mix up random shit at the lunch table and they would dare me to eat it for $1 because everyone was laughing with me. Right. And that's like what I told myself, like, oh, I'm fitting in now because people think that I'm funny. Like if I do these dumb things, then maybe I'm going to show up and they're going to think that I'm a little bit cooler and they're going to want to sit with me at the lunch table, because giving up that piece of myself and humiliating myself so that I would have friends to sit with at the lunch table meant that I wasn't alone. And that was the thing that scared me the most, was being alone and showing up as my true authentic self. Sometimes you're not going to have people that are going to be surrounding you if you're choosing to like go to the wrong circle. And so that's kind of where it started for me. And then I moved on to middle school and the same kind of thing happened. I got into a group of people that did not align with my morals and my values and my kind of likes and interests on just like a more basic level. And I just kind of morphed myself into taking on exactly what they did. So I listened to their music. I did the things that they wanted to do. Didn't always make the best decisions because they were there. And that's who I found that I could fit into and try and morph myself into something that I was not in order to show up and not be alone in middle school. And then what kind of like ingrained the idea that this is just how things were for me was when I got into high school. And high school for me, I had told myself, oops, yep, you spilt it. What kind of changed for me in high school was I was like, okay, I don't like any of the things that I've been doing. I'm going to do something different. And being a military child, like I was really good at kind of changing and adjusting and adapting to different groups and different situations because I moved every 3 years. And whether you've moved once or you've moved 100 times, like we all go through phases where we're kind of like growing and changing. Well, for me, I got into high school and I made varsity as a freshman, and I was one of 2 kids that made varsity as a freshman. And I was like, this is freaking it. Like, this is where I'm going to show up on this team and I'm going to be my true self. We're all coming together to play this sport. And it's just going to be this great experience. And I was so freaking wrong. Like, it just because you're showing up with one like interest and that does not, it's cold. Yep. That does not mean that everything you can show up as your true authentic self. And so this was a team of people that they did not, are you cold? I showed up and I was just like me to my core. And the judgment that I got for that, what is that? I don't know if the word scarred is right, but it caused so much trauma in me because I felt like every time that I tried to show up as myself from there on was just going to be belittled and I was going to be judged for it. And so it instilled this fear that you cannot show up as you because people are going to judge you and then you're not going to have anybody at your table. And so these were a group of girls that we all loved soccer, but if you weren't number one, if you didn't fit into the mold of perfection on the field, you were an outcast. And so whenever I would mess up or whenever I would fall short, there was nobody helping me get back up. In fact, they were yelling in my face, telling me that I had done it wrong and that I needed to fix it, but not giving me any guidance on how to fix it. And so instead of showing up as the person that I normally would have been, asking for help and saying like, I don't understand this, I felt the shame and the guilt of not fitting into their mold of being perfect. And so I just kept my mouth shut and I quit. That is the only time in my life that I think I've ever genuinely quit something that I was passionate about, because showing up as myself obviously wasn't good enough. And I felt the inability to continue. And I originally was going to quit altogether, but then one of the coaches talked me into going to JV and it ended up being a great season. And that was that. But I put this quote that I found about standing out. And I feel like at a young age, we all go through this where we're afraid to stand out and stand alone because we feel like nobody's going to accept us as we are. And at the end of the day, the only person that you really need to, the only person's opinion that matters of yourself is you. And while we can say that through and through, day in and day out, it is not that easy, because we are all looking for acceptance, and we are all looking for a tribe, and we are all looking for a circle. And it's difficult to kind of navigate past the idea that we only need to be thinking about our opinion of ourselves. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so the next slide, where is your tribe when you can no longer conform to their agenda? And this time in my life, the first picture over here is the day that I had my son. I don't talk about it very often, but I was 19 when I got pregnant, and I thought I had the world at my fingertips. I was on scholarship in college playing soccer. I had a great group of friends that I thought were the coolest thing ever. I was popular in school. I had taken on this, I don't know if I would call it party girl, but I like to go out and have fun with my friends. Please stop that. And so I had built my tribe around faking all of these different attributes of myself about I didn't really like to go out and party that much. It was kind of fun at times, but day in and day out, it got really old really fast. But I thought that that's what I needed to do to fit in. And so when I got pregnant, the tribe that I had conformed myself to fit into, the tribe that I had changed everything about myself to fit into, they were gone, because no longer could I meet their agenda. I could not sit at their table because I didn't have the attributes that they were looking for. And it was built on a false foundation of strength and hope, because if you're building relationships on an unstable foundation, as soon as something happens, or as soon as there's kind of a discrepancy, that foundation is going to crumble. And when you show up unauthentically, and you're showing up and you're trying to put on all these different hats to kind of take on a role that maybe you don't align with or you don't feel comfortable with, when difficult times happen and when things come to light, it's not sustainable. And so then you're going to be left when I had my son, everyone was gone. And so not only did I not have anybody at my table, but I had nobody to go to. I had no help. I had no support. I had nothing. And so that's kind of where I started putting on a lot more hats, and I started taking on a lot more of a perfectionism mindset, in that I was now 20. I had no college under my belt. I had nothing to go back on. My family expected so much more out of me than I was able to give. And I felt like I was just living this life that I didn't know who I was anymore. I had put so much effort into trying to change and be somebody that I wasn't, that I didn't currently know who I was. So 20, baby, didn't know where I was going, didn't know anything, because I had built such a life that did not really truly align with what I was thinking or what I was feeling, that I didn't know which way was up. And so that just goes to show that the more that we show up as our, oh my gosh, not as ourselves, the harder it is to find ourselves in the end. The more we carry the opinions of others above the opinions the more that we carry the opinions of others above what we truly think and what we feel and how we want to show up, the harder it is to find ourselves in the end. And that's a reason why I'm so thankful for this group, because even in my darkest times, I've been able to show up as myself. And even though we are all coming from different mindsets, different beliefs, different positions in life, we all have different hats on, we all have different roles and titles and everything like that. Everyone is accepting of me. Everyone, I can show up and give myself and pour myself out, and people are just accepting of that, and not just accepting, but they're supportive of that. Everybody here is for you being authentically you, even if that looks differently than what they are authentically. And so a lot of people see the picture that's the one with me with my family, and they think, oh, she's got it together. She has a spouse, she's got a house now, she's got her 3 kids, and everything like that. But they don't see where I started. I started at the bottom. I started in the deepest depths of depression and despair and loneliness. And I started there because I was trying to build a life that I didn't know, a life that I didn't align with, solely so that I could fit in with other people. And I think once I was like just knocked down to the bottom, like not until that point was I able to just truly start building myself to be the person that I actually wanted to be, instead of a person that everyone else told me that I needed to fit in to be. And then this kind of just goes directly into the importance of who we let in our circle, who we let sit at our table, and who we surround ourselves with. Because yes, we need to show up authentically as ourselves, but who we surround ourselves with and the people that we give a seat at our table to, they're going to affect how we do that. They're going to affect our ability to show up as ourselves and to be, Luke, stop, and to be to be our genuine selves. And so like, if you're showing up to people who are going to be constantly judging you and criticizing you and ostracizing you about your choices and your decisions, like that's going to get into your head. That is going to start affecting like how you act and what you do. And those people do not deserve a seat at your table. Like if somebody can't, even if they have differentiating opinions, like if somebody can't respect the decisions and the things that are important to you, they don't deserve a seat at your table. And sometimes this may look like family members. This may look like loved ones. This may look like friends that you've had for a long time. Just because they are blood does not mean that their opinion is worth you feeling like garbage about yourself, or you showing up in a way that does not feel authentic to you. And pro tip, pick a new circle. And it's easier said than done. Like I've said about multiple times in this entire thing, like it's easy to say all these things, but until you can truly dive in and reflect on yourself, like doing these things is not easy. It's something that you have to train yourself to do. It's something that you have to intentionally practice day in and day out, is finding your core focuses. I'm going to let Luke inside real quick. It's something that you have to practice day in and day out. It's not going to come easy peasy overnight. Like it's something that you need to sit with. And sometimes that means sitting in the crap, like sitting in the darkest moments of your life and saying like, who was I then? Who do I want to be now? And what is the mile marker that I'm going to take to get there? And really kind of focusing on your core beliefs and your core intentions and kind of who you see yourself to be as you go forward. And that's how we create an authentic way to show up for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, you have to sit with how you're feeling every single day. Like you are the person that has to sit in your emotions and sit in your choices. And if that does not feel authentic to you, let's change it. Like it can be super heavy to think about all of this, but the longer we hold more value in what others think, the more we lose ourselves. And so it's come to a point in my life where I have started to really genuinely just like push away what other people are thinking. And then I had to like sit back and think like, why am I pushing that away? Like I want to know, like I have a desire to be accepted, and I want to be accepted, and I want to have a group, and I want to have people that I can rely on. But there's come a time in my life where I want that, but I'm not willing to sacrifice what I believe and how I feel and what I think in order to get that. And so when we can truly like sit with ourselves and know that what you're doing and how you're showing up is going to affect who you have at your table, it makes it a lot easier to show up as ourselves. And because I haven't built this, I guess I have kind of, but now that we're in this community, like I feel like this community, it just opens up all of the doors to do that. And that's kind of what the next slide is. Oh, it's not playing anymore. And the next slide, I could go on days and days and days for. My cat's about to escape. I'm so sorry. And so this community is more than just a health and fitness community. And it's kind of what I touched on in the beginning. This community is a place where we can show up as our true selves and not be judged. And I still have like my sweaty selfies saved and all of the things from the beginning of the journey where I was too afraid to post them because I was afraid to show up as the like not fit breastfeeding mom that had nothing together. Like I was afraid to show up as that person because like I had put all these hats on myself where I'm a mom, I'm a nurse, I'm a wife, I have to stay home with my kids and everything like that. Like I had all these hats on that taking them off, I didn't know what I looked like. And so I showed up as this person who was lost. I was in the depths of depression and postpartum anxiety. And I was so scared to show up as me. I was so scared to show up as someone that didn't have it all together because I had put on this front that I knew what I was doing and that I had this beautiful life built. And don't get me wrong, my life is beautiful, but this person in that picture, that first ever picture I posted about my journey and my my desire to kind of like go forward in this community and this journey and not just do this for myself, but for my family, I had to turn off my notifications that day. I had to turn off all of my Instagram and all of my Facebook notifications because I was so afraid of the judgment that I was going to get. And I was like prepared for the nasty grams. Like I had like rebuttals in my head and responses in my head that I was going to give people when they saw this picture and said, this is like, you need to stop. Like, what are you doing? You're not capable of this. You're not a leader. You're not this. You're not that. Like I had responses in my head. Was I going to be brave enough to say them? Probably not. But I had responses in my head about everything I was going to say to them when they did that. Because on this day with this picture with Erica was a day that I always get emotional talking about it, but we sat in this room and there was a group of people lined up and every single one of them showed up in a way that I feel like I've never seen before. They showed up in a way that was so honest and so genuine. And all I knew was what they had is what I wanted. I wanted to be able to show up, not just to myself and to my family, but I just wanted to be able to show up for myself in a space where I felt like I truly belonged and where I was proud of who I was becoming, not because what people told me I needed to do, but because what I was doing was what I genuinely wanted to do and what I felt proud of. And so this community has given that to me and more. This community allows you to show up as you and be accepted as you. And it takes away that, I don't want to say the fear because I feel like it's always kind of intimidating showing up and voicing your opinions and things like that. But it's allowed me to gain the strength and the confidence in doing that on a bigger platform than just in this private space. So now, like when I'm sharing my life on Instagram and when I'm sharing my life on Facebook and things like that, I'm showing up as myself. And while I know that other people won't agree with it sometimes and other people won't see eye to eye with what I'm doing, I know that I'm doing what I'm doing for myself. And if they have differing opinions, that's totally okay. But I know when I go to sleep at night, like what I'm doing is out of a genuine effort to support other people and be helpful to other people. And that's kind of one of my core values is being able to show up as myself and support people and help people when they might not even know that they need it. And so that's kind of why I think that this community is such a powerful piece, because we're looking at everything. We're not just looking at your ability to show up for your workouts every day. We're looking at and helping you support the ability to increase your mental growth and help with your mental health and create just a sense of accomplishment and self-love and self-care and self-value. And I used to think that those words were so silly because like, who cared about self-care? Like it was about what I could do for other people, not what I could do for myself. And that has been tossed to the wayside. Like I'm all about self-care now. I'm about embracing like my inner feelings and my inner abilities and my wants and my desires and things like that, and just kind of like sharing them with the world. So this community is definitely amazing. Yeah, and then we're gonna go to the next one. And just to kind of like close it off, and my last slide, when you look back at your life, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel when you look back? Do you want to look back and think like, okay, I've basically like faked it through my whole life. I've never really talked about or shown or done everything that I truly want to do. Like, is that kind of how you want to look back at your life? Or do you want to be like, I showed up for this because I wanted to. I showed up for this because like I felt the desire to. I showed up for this because it genuinely lit my soul on fire. And that's kind of where I'm at with coaching. The coach shirt that I got for my first time hitting Success Club, I literally almost threw it in the garbage because I was like, I cannot put that shirt on and post it on social media. Like people are going to see the word coach and they're going to say you're not qualified, because for a long time I believed that. I believed that I was not qualified. I was not capable. I was not at a level in my life or a point in my life where I could ever lead other people. And I was scared for so long because I was putting myself in this box that other people wanted me to be in. People did not want me to be extraordinary. They did not want me to get outside of the box because that made them uncomfortable. And so a lot of times people will still see this picture with the word coach on it and they're still going to have those feelings, but I have to remember those are a reflection of them and not a reflection of me. I took on this title of coach and I was literally scared shitless. I was like, Erica, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. And one of the first things that she said to me was, show up as you. Show up as yourself and show up as someone that you would be proud of. And that's kind of been my goal this entire journey, is showing up as myself and showing up as someone that I would want to be friends with, and that I would feel safe with, and I would feel comfortable with, and I would feel confident in sharing my authentic self with them. And I have a hard time like putting it into words, like all coaching has done for me. And I know this is not like a why am I coaching call, but honestly, coaching has allowed me to show up as the person that I've always wanted to be. And it's allowed me to take on the roles that I feel align with my being and align with my heart and align with all of the things that I'm doing. And it's not just a sense of like, yeah, I'm getting like these physical results, but I'm genuinely helping people that could have been in the same position that I was in, where you have so many hats on and you kind of like lose sight of who you are. But as a part of this community, take the hats off. Put the hats aside, take them off, come into this community and show up as yourself, and show up as someone that maybe has a fear of judgment, but knowing that you're coming here and it's a safe space. And I think that that's like the biggest thing in all of this, is really just learning how to find a community that's going to support you and being you, and finding a space where you feel safe in, so that when you're going out into the world, you're able to show up more authentically as you every single day. And that is my presentation. My cat keeps getting up here. How do I stop sharing my screen?
That's a really good question.
I think at the top all the way at the top where there's like a little button that's red.
That's the recording button though.
Try to hit the escape button. I don't know what you did, but it worked.
Okay.
Yes, Megan.
Yay.
That was powerful AF.
Thank you.
And it resonated so much with, I'm sure, a bunch of us. I know for sure the college thing definitely resonated with me. And not fitting in high school, 100%, especially growing up in a predominantly white like school and trying to fit in that way too, like in that capacity. That was like super hard for me. And then in college, it was like, you know, you go out or you don't go out, and you drink a lot or you don't drink a lot. And for me, it was like, I drink a lot and I get sick, and then I get emotional. And then also like, you know, that was just my life. It was just like not a good time. So I really appreciate that. And 100%, I wrote this earlier in the comments, but like the environment that you place in yourself, if you're not feeling comfortable, you're 100% in survival mode. And so you're just going to do whatever you can to just feel okay. In that environment, whether that's at that lunch table and making people laugh with you, or like drinking with people where you're like, I don't really want to do this, but I'm doing it, or like shrinking yourself to make other people feel comfortable. That's all survival mechanisms. And to be quite honest, I didn't realize that I had a lot of those until I went to therapy. And my therapist was like, Shanice, why do you do that? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's just life. And he's like, no, that's not normal.
That's not normal.
So 100% finding that like those people and that community really helped with allowing myself to bloom into who I am. And I mean, 28 years later, I feel the most confident in who Shanice is today, and other people are seeing that, which is huge. So thank you for sharing that all of this stuff is just like now sitting in the front of my head. So I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'm reading Becky's comment, because I know Becky's last thing in the chat is saying like shrinking yourself into somebody else's box really resonates. And that was the thing that stuck with me, because I think like, I mean, all like everybody saying all of it did. And I think for so long, I didn't realize, Shanice, like you said, like with Sean, it's like, like he says it's not normal, but I wonder like how many of us have just lived our lives like trying to fit in with somebody else because it's what we think should work. And it wasn't even something I thought about consciously. It's like, oh, like that's not me. Like I'm being that person because it's who I think I should be. And being consciously aware of that, like Megan and you sharing that, like you were putting yourself in those situations to keep that group, like that's huge. Like, what are we doing or not doing? And I think I've like limited myself in so many ways through my whole life. And it's that I feel like it's this continual process of teaching myself not to trust my gut. Because I think every
Yeah.
single time that I've gone into a situation like that, it's like, oh my gosh, like I shouldn't be who I feel like I should be. And then I I make myself a little bit smaller. And hearing you talk about your story and like coming to that and finding that light and finding that connection is just, it's so empowering to see what it looks like and know that it happens and feel that. And I know it wasn't easy for you to share this.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about what made you want to do this call? Because I know the backstory to that, but like, what was it that kicked you into like being like, what was the moment where you're like, I need to talk about this?
I think it was just the real transition between having all of the identities that I had. Like I was a working mom. I did not fit in with the stay-at-home moms, and I was a working mom. And then taking off that hat and like kind of having to reevaluate like who I was and what I was doing and where I was going, because I've never been a stay-at-home mom. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the 3 months that I took maternity leave. And so taking off the hat of I'm going to be working to help support my family and having to really, really, really reevaluate like what it was that I brought to the table that was going to be useful, because I felt like my contribution to my family was me working and was me being a nurse and me taking on that role. But when I took a step back, I was like, well, what do I really have to bring to the table? And so that's kind of where I like didn't fit into any sort of category. I was just kind of like, I'm kind of still working. I'm kind of staying at home. Like, where do I fit in with? And like learning that just because I'm not wearing a certain hat or I'm not wearing a certain title or doing a certain thing doesn't mean that I don't fit in with my group and with my tribe. And that the hats that I put on don't make me any more valuable than if I took them off. And so and loneliness will drive you to do some crazy things. So like, I feel like that's where I was afraid of like the loneliness aspect.
Yeah. And I think that the credential as a worthiness is huge. Like
Yeah.
that's that
Hiding behind your
hat.
titles. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like what are the things that something recently, like who am I versus what do I do can be such a
Yeah.
huge transition.
No, that was a big thing for me. And I had to like really sit back because I'd identified with something for so long that when I took it off, I had to like reevaluate who I was and where I was at and what I was capable of and everything.
What's it been like to take it off?
Shitty for the first little bit. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. And so I think that has what's been the struggle for me is that I've taken the hat off, but I want to put it back on. Like I genuinely love working. And so I know like to my core, like that's part of who I am and that's what I want to do. And it's, for me, it's not just a hat. It's like a part of my being. And so it being taken away from me has been, and I say taken away, I'm trying to get into grad school and I'm watching my kids and I'm getting to watch my kids grow and be the crazy kids that they are. And so I'm really thankful for that. But I feel like society has told me that I'm supposed to really enjoy this. Like I'm supposed to love staying at home and being at home 24/7 and being with my kids. And that's just not me. And so I feel like that's kind of one of the hats that I've had to try and put on for this. Like I've had to try and make it seem like I'm loving every second of this and I'm not. Don't get me wrong, there's good times and there's times when I'm genuinely happy that I'm here, but I miss the freedom and I miss the ability to go to work and help people in a different capacity and have adult interaction and things like that. And it is not me to sit home. So I think that that's realizing that I'm in my profession for a reason and I genuinely love what I do, has also been kind of enlightening.
Did anybody else, I know like Shanice and I are unmuting ourselves over here and talking. Did anybody else have anything that stuck with them that they really like, that really resonated and meant a lot for them?
I had to like really, when she started talking about elementary school, like when she started talking about that, it really made me have to reevaluate growing up myself, because I was the oldest. Excuse the background noise. I was the oldest of four, the only girl. My dad grew up with only brothers, so growing up I was always thrown in with the boy crowd. I had to be a boy, I had to act like a boy. And I remember I was always the new kid because we moved around a lot too, not because I was military, but for some reason my parents like to move every 2 years. So there was always a new school. And there was one time in 5th grade, I went to this new school, and my dad is very old school. You know, your shirts are tucked in to go to school. You have your hair done, blah, blah, blah. Well, my hair always had to be up and my shirt had to be tucked in, and I wasn't allowed to wear, short shorts or anything like that. So I go to school and I start getting made fun of because here I am wearing clothes that my brothers are wearing, and they're wondering like why. And, I think that started for me back then, is like I had to find a way to fit in no matter what, instead of just standing out and realizing like, this is who I am. So that just kind of like her talking about that really made me go, huh, yeah, it does start at such a young age.
Oh, young.
So
yeah, I
you.
feel like that's what we do.
Yeah.
Bree, hearing you say that just made me kind of think a little bit like standing out, because I think I've always conceptualized standing out as I did something wrong. But like standing out, like I also notice like I have this fear of like shining too bright or like doing too much. And it's like standing out, like that fear can exist on both ends, because we still stand out if we're shining. Like if you are the overachiever, if you're the person that's getting the awards, you're still other than. And I think this fear of other than is so enormous.
And that's kind of where I was talking about, like, society has this like normal range, and if you're going above it, like if you're doing too much, you're not normal. If you're not doing enough, you're not normal. And like they want us to just fit into this little space that they've given us, and we have to conform into this space. Yeah, the standard deviation. Like if you're shining too bright, unacceptable. If you're kind of like having a rough phase and you're not doing enough, as society would say, like you're also being put on the back burner. You're also an outcast. You're not as accepted, and you're not fitting into what's considered normal.
And I also think it's hard too, because like in high school, as you know, I was huge into wrestling. Like I did that all the time, and I always was like looked badly because here I'm a girl that loves wrestling, helped coach wrestling, participated in wrestling, but obviously I'm weird for doing that, and then I also feel like trying to fit in and trying to hide behind who you truly are. You also have to remind yourself too, like, don't do that with family. Like, I feel I love my husband's family, don't get me wrong, but I feel like for the last 8 years since we've been together, I have literally hid behind myself because I was so afraid of the judgment I was going to get from them, thinking I'm not good enough for their son. And I still struggle with that. I'm still trying to find that way and try to find my voice. And like, it sucks. I'll tell you that. It sucks trying to find that right now.
And I think there's a lot of value in that too. Like Megan and Bree, like, thank you. Like, it's not easy. And I think normalizing that, like, it sucks to put the stay-at-home mom hat on. Like, and it sucks to do that sometimes. And if those your kids, are they inside?
Yeah, they're inside. This has been all morning. That's why I was so terrified to do this call, because I was like, my kids are batshit crazy this morning. Crazy.
Well, I'm pretty sure if you saw my Instagram, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I was like, I know, Megan, thank you. Thank you for doing the call. Thank you for using your voice. Thank everybody else for being on here this morning. Does anybody, before we wrap up, I know like it is time, and time is so valuable. He is literally farting and smelling his farts behind me. Like, I don't know if you guys saw my face, but I'm like, he is like literally will pass gas and he's sniffing his butt. I don't even know. Are there any like questions or thoughts or anybody that like that this brought up that you guys have in general that we can answer for you while we're all on a call together before we kind of go on with our Sundays? Okay,
Thank
then in that case, we will sign off. Thank you guys for being here. Everything will be as normal this week, and we'll be back next week. And Jess is going to be on next week. She's going to talk about trusting the process and really like the things we tell ourselves that talk ourselves out of like, oh, this isn't working or it's not going to work. And then we stop before we even get started, and really being able to own like going along with both the easy parts of the process as well as the hard parts of the process. I mean, yes. And Becky, when you do wrap, that's like me trying to like word assemble anything. So when you do wrap your head around it, feel free to dump whenever, because I'm here for it. And have fun with your snow. Sorry to anybody that has to shovel a whole bunch today. You too, Sid, I guess. Bye, guys.
Bye.